So about a month ago, I posted this picture of my first smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy Grand Duos, in the r/Samsung subreddit, and to see what people thought about it, I asked if I should make a video about it. And to my surprise, people seem to be genuinely interested in it. So it's a bit of a throwback video because who doesn't like to see an old piece of tech? Brings back old memories, right? So this is my first smartphone, the Samsung Galaxy Grand Duos, which was launched way back in January 2013 as a mid-range device from Samsung, and it was a really interesting device at that time. It was the time when smartphones were getting bigger and bigger day by day. This phone is a 5-incher when most of the smartphones of its time had only a 4-inch screen. The Samsung Galaxy Grand was like the budget Galaxy Note 2 of the same time, and they both looked fairly similar. It has the signature Samsung design language of that time with the Samsung branding at the top along with the earpiece, the sensors and the front camera and the Duos branding for the dual SIM models. It also had this physical home button below with the capacitive back key or the options or menu key which also lights up, which is really neat. At the back we have an 8-megapixel single camera setup with the LED flash to the left and the speaker to the right and the Samsung branding below it. The volume rockers are to the left, the micro USB 2.0 port and the microphone at the bottom, and it also had a headphone jack at the top. To the right, we have the power button. The little symbol above the power button was a neat addition. So it has the official stock ROM with the TouchWiz UI. The TouchWiz UI was Samsung's UI before the Samsung Experience and the current One UI. People either hated it or loved it. Personally, I like the TouchWiz UI compared to the UI of other OEMs of the same time. It was very intuitive and had many interesting features. So it was shipped with Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean out of the box. Jelly Bean 4.1.2 with the TouchWiz UI ran really well on the phone. It was a smooth experience. But everything was sort of ruined after the Jelly Bean 4.2.2 update. The phone became laggy and the whole user experience was somewhat ruined. Samsung pushed a number of stability updates to try and fix the bugs, but they weren't successful in doing so, and many users were really disappointed on the update. Nevertheless, the software was really interesting, especially for the time. The software on all the Samsung smartphones of that time in general was very interesting. It had these cool interesting effects in the lock screen when you tried to unlock the device. It had multi-window, or as we call it now, the split screen feature, even before it was a thing. The Smart Stay feature was a neat feature, even if it didn't work many of the times. The pop-up view for the videos was also neat. It also had many interesting gesture features. This showed Samsung's effort they put into their software, but the downside was that it made them extremely slow, and the Samsungs of that time were known for their slowness compared to other devices of that time. No wonder Samsung removed many of these features from their next devices. It may have been slow, but the software was really interesting. Coming to the slowness, the Samsung Galaxy Grand was powered by an unknown chipset which had a dual-core 1.2 GHz Cortex A9 CPU and a Broadcom Video Core 4 GPU. It has 1 GB of RAM with 8 GB internal storage expandable to 64 GB via microSD. Even though the CPU and GPU were not really powerful, but as it has a 480p display, it was enough. It is not possible to play modern high-end games like PUBG on the Galaxy Grand, but you can still play moderate games like Temple Run and similar other games. Now coming to the displays, Samsung is well known for making beautiful, bright and vivid displays, and the Samsung Galaxy Grand was no exception. The display is really vivid even to this day, and yes, it is a 480p display, meaning it is not that sharp, but honestly, it's actually not that bad. It is not an AMOLED panel like today's modern Samsung mid-rangers, but rather a TFT display, but it is a good panel. The display is a 5-incher, which was big for the time, which put it in the phablet category of smartphones when it was a thing. When comparing it to a modern mid-ranger from Samsung of the same range, we can see how things have evolved. The most noticeable change is the change in the design language. It is now all about the minimal bezels and chin and the 21:9 tall aspect ratio. The build quality has improved drastically with the glass sandwich design instead of the all-plastic build of the previous generation Samsung smartphones. The Samsung Galaxy Grand had this interesting pattern on its back cover with this glittery effect, which gave a very special effect when light falls on it at a specific angle. Also, the Galaxy Grand lacked the fingerprint sensor, which is really common these days even in entry-level smartphones. Now coming to the camera, the Galaxy Grand's camera performs surprisingly well even to this day. The pictures are comparable to the A7 2018, but only lagging a little bit behind when it comes to dynamic range. I'm actually surprised myself. One thing the Samsung Galaxy A7 2018 edges out is the wide-angle lens, which comes in handy a few of the times, and also a depth sensor for those portrait shots. The phones at the time of the Samsung Galaxy Grand Duos didn't have these fancy double or triple camera setups. One thing I should mention is that the Samsung Galaxy Grand has one of the brightest LED flash I have ever seen on a smartphone. So that was a quick little trip down the memory lane. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what was your first smartphone and what you use now as your daily driver. Leave a like on this video if you guys enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.